these labels just have happened over time. In-style badass, really. Now that's nice, isn't it? Y'all, I'm going to tell you a little, since she brought it up, I'll tell you a little bit about that story. I get a call and some woman says, we would like to feature you in a magazine. It's called In-Style Magazine. Well, I am not a fashionista, as this outfit belies, but I'm like, in style. She goes, yes, it's our badass segment. I said, okay. Just out of curiosity, who else is in it? She goes, well, Nancy Pelosi. I said, I'm in. Nancy Pelosi. So me and Nancy, yes. So anyway, folks, listen here. Can anybody ever be free if they can't control their bodies? Hell no. Hell no, they cannot. This issue has galvanized women across this state. Hello. Good to see you, Jim Magro. How are you? Thank you. Well, I will tell you this. About 2 months ago, I had a little anxiety about the state of things because, truthfully, in a midterm election with a Democrat in the White House and inflation kind of running high, I'm like, ooh, this is going to be tough. we're going to have to work as hard as we ever have. And we still do, of course. But I feel a little wind in our sails. Yeah. I feel a little wind at our back. Yeah. Because Lindsey Graham continues to bring this issue to the fore, and he has told us what we knew all along is that they're seeking a national ban on abortion in this country. Yeah. So they are ready to throw us straight back to the 30s and 40s where women had no rights to control their own bodies. And here's the thing about this whole business. It's not just your physical body, right? It's your educational choices. It's your vocational choices. It's where you live and who you love and how you're going to plan your future. It can have devastating consequences if you are thrust into the role of parent when you weren't psychologically or economically prepared for that responsibility. And it's like, I think it was George Carlin might have said. How many of y'all remember George Carlin? Some of y'all are old enough. He said, boy, these Republicans care an awful lot about you when you're in the womb. But when you get here, you're on your own. Right? Right. Yeah. Because if you cared about life, you would care about daycare. Yep. Yes. Right? I mean, really. If you cared about life, you'd care about expanding Medicaid so that people can have the health care that they need. That's right. If you cared about life, you'd care about housing people and feeding people. We have children in North Carolina who are hungry. I think the statistic is something like 2 in 5 children in North Carolina are food insecure. So let's just strip it all back. And, I'm preaching to the choir here, but let's just strip it all back and talk about the rampant hypocrisy of these old white and black men, Herschel Walker, Mark Robinson. Abortion is murder except when I pay for it. How dare they? Right. How dare they?
Tell them dead.
And do you remember? Thank you, Kurt. Thank you, Mr. Beasley. How dare you suggest these moral high grounds, right? When you know that when you were in college, you had to do something that maybe you didn't want to do, but it was your decision and your girlfriend's decision and your physician and whomever else. The hypocrisy of it all. So here we are again, fighting the same battle we've been fighting since the 70s, right? I remember when Roe v. Wade became the law of the land. I was a very young preteen, actually. And I remember hearing and reading about this and not quite understanding it, but thinking, this seems like progress for women. And then I remember getting to the University of Tennessee and getting my first credit card, which, by the way, you couldn't get until the 70s without your husband or your father securing that right. 1974, I got a Sears credit card. I was living large. Honey, I abused that thing.
Been there, done that.
Oh my God, I have to pay it back? Really? Oh, that's so depressing, right? But anyway, look, credit, autonomy, all these hard-fought battles, the right to vote. Women are we are no strangers to struggle, right? I mean, this is something we've done time and time again. But damn it, I'm tired of it. You shouldn't have to refight every battle. So what my hope is that they have poked a sleeping giant. And I hope that young women in particular are just mad as hell. I know your mothers are. I know your mothers are. And I hope the young men that are part of your lives are mad as hell too. Because look, nobody wants to be thrust into parenthood. It's not just women, it should be in the entirety of our society. So here's what I'll say. We got 30 days, folks, till this election. Do you realize that? 30 days. So I'm going to ask you to do a lot of things. I'm going to ask you to wear my button. I'm going to ask you to put my sticker on your car. I'm going to ask you to take at least 2 people to the polls with you on the day it opens, which is October 20th. We need to vote early and get our votes banked, because God knows what can happen between October 20th and Election Day, right? And if you vote early, and if you get your name off the Democratic roster, they're not going to call you every hour.
Or email. Or text.
Or text. Or email. Or send a carrier pigeon to your office with a message. Martha, have you voted? So, get there on October 20th and take a couple of friends with you. It's just that important. If we do not perform well in this election in North Carolina, we are in a real fix. We are 3 seats away from a supermajority in the House and 2 in the Senate. The margins are very thin. But I want to tell you one thing. The road to success in this election marches right through New Hanover County. We have 3 women on the ballot in the legislature. Marsha Morgan, Amy Bloch-Deloach, and myself. 3 women whose presence in that legislature will be a game changer. Will be a game changer. It's the difference between night and day. Every person you add to the Democratic roster in Raleigh. Listen, I'm the Democratic whip, and I know what it is to count votes and to cajole people into doing what they're morally supposed to do. When women are in the mix, conversations happen, things get done, it's a better place. So these 3 women in these 3 races can make a huge difference in the trajectory of North Carolina about education funding, about how we pay teachers, how we spend money on pupils, how we treat and clean up our water here, how we pass statewide non-discrimination legislation so LGBTQ folks are protected in finance and housing and every other element of society. So much is at risk. So, you know what your mission is. Get out there and vote, and make sure you talk to your friends and family and get it done. When you volunteer for a campaign, follow through on it. Work a poll. Do some things. I always tell people, do that next uncomfortable thing. I'm doing it all day, every day right now. I can tell you that. These shoes will show what I'm talking about. So anyway, I will in this moment yield the mic. I usually don't yield, but I will now, to my friend and WOW co-founder, Lynn Shoemaker.